Hello, Iron Mountains. Garrett here with this week's edition of Regent's Corner. Today we're going to discuss how to make leather weight bags, basically bean bags. So I'll give you an example of what it looks like. So this is one I made. I've made several of these. The nice thing about this is these can be made from scrap leather, really, so you already have scrap leather. They're a really easy beginner project to make, and they end up becoming very, very useful. Uh, you can use them for holding your leather, for holding pattern while you're cutting, or just holding the leather down while you're doing stamping, and any number kind of things. I even use some of them to hold my camera stand for the phone. So you have all kinds of very versatile. So, oh, that's the. So anyway, so over here I have a pre-cut out piece. But basically all it is you just take a piece of leather. You can get scrap leather. You fold it over. So whatever size you want, you cut it. Now when I cut my leather like this, I typically either use a pair of multi-cutters or just a good pair of shears. You don't really, trying to do it with a knife doesn't really work very well. They usually don't help. You got a nice sharp roller blade that you can roller cutter from using for fabric, makes another good option too that you might already have on hand. But the nice thing is there's really no specialty tools, and the size really isn't super important. Dimensions aren't super important, but I tend to go for a 4x8 rectangular piece of leather like this, and that way when we fold it, we get ourselves approximately a 4x4 square, which is about going to be this size. So now what makes this a great practice tool is we're going to start here. I'm going to just do a little demo. I have a piece already pre-made. I'm using my 6mm chisel, and just like I've done in previous videos, we're going to start right there. And we're just going to hit it, and then you're just going to work your way all the way across. Not a big deal. I don't think I'm going to have to really show the whole demo to you for that. So I use the 6mm. You can use the smaller one if you really want, but it's not really necessary. Now what we're going to use to weigh them down is I like to use just good old BBs. You buy at most sports stores, anywhere that sells air guns and BB guns will have these, because you can buy a bottle of this for about maybe $6 to $8. And the great thing is, when you're using this size 4x4, you're only going to you can make 2 out of 1 bottle. So you can get your stretch there. Now, since I already have the demo piece that I already made earlier, just did a standard saddle stitch right around the edge. Now what you want to do is you want to leave yourself a little pocket at the end right here, because that's how we're going to get these in there, obviously. Now, because these are BBs and they're there, I probably would recommend using a funnel of some sort. And we're shaped. And if you really want to see them go down there. And you're just going to keep filling up the bag. And you want to be careful, of course. Otherwise, you'll drop. You don't want these going everywhere, believe me. They're... Yeah, that's getting pretty close there. I'd say you want to get about 3/4 of the way full. You don't want to necessarily, like I said, have a completely full to the hilt, because you got to have room to put a little more in. Like I said, so I used about half a. So now that we've used about a half the bag, I'm going to go ahead and finish sewing this off on camera. And then once you have the bag Since we already punched all our holes, we're going to practice our saddle stitch. As you see, I pull mine off to the side. And you know what? If you don't have to worry about, this doesn't have to be pretty. If you mess something up, you skip a hole, it doesn't matter. We're not turning this, that's the other thing I should have mentioned. We're not turning this inside out. So there is no inside out thing. So we're just going to leave it completely, the edges raw and unfinished, because once again, this is just a beanbag tool to sit on your desk or in a bag if you don't have a dedicated space. And these don't take up a lot of space either. That is the part, this is why we don't fill it all the way to the top, so we have room to work with our stitching. Yeah. So we're just going to stitch this up, doing a saddle stitch. Now I'm not cranking down on it because you don't need to do super tight with it. We're just gonna run that through, and we're just gonna finish sealing this up. And now the nice thing is you can make this any size you want. The 4x4 squarish I find is a good utility side. In fact, I have a pattern here. Let me just finish this up in a second. Sometimes I have a couple that are rectangles, longer, probably 8 or 12 inch by 3 or 4 inches wide. And that's great for when you have bigger projects or you have something you want to lay over. Now it's important you want to seal this all the way to the edge, because if you leave any gap in there, then you'll start having BBs fall out, and that's, like I said, that's not good. Now you can use BBs, you could probably use beans too if you really want to make them bean bags. But I like the BBs because they have the weight. And the weight is the whole point of this, is for them to have weight. Now we're going to backstitch a couple here. So you could potentially even use sand or, other stuff. But once again, if you start using sand or granular stuff like that, more granular, it's going to be more likely to blow out, more likely to leak through the edges and the corners, and we don't want that. So you're better off I like to use BBs. So you get it cheap, and you can buy a whole bunch for, one bottle, $6 bag, makes you you can make 2 bags, 2 bean bags, or weighted bags, or whatever you want to call them. All right, I'll tell you what, one more and we'll finish this off. Okay. Then we're going to... So now at this point we have 2 options. We can cut and melt the ends, but since this is I'm going for maximum strength here, I'm just going to tie the knot, just an old-fashioned square knot. I'm not worried about looks or aesthetics on this. So we cut that. Go ahead and get our lighter. We melt the ends a little bit there. And voila, you now have a really nice, about almost a 1 pound weight bag. And I was saying earlier, I have a rectangular one that you can make You can make them rectangle. You can make them square. You can even have, you know, I have this little odd shaped one here I use for, just because it's scrap. Like I said, all we're using is scrap leather. So now the type of leather you want to use is you want to use garment grade leather. You don't want to use vegetable tan. It's just not flexible enough. It's just not going to really do the thing. And that gets really expensive, and there's no need for that. So you want to use a good heavyweight garment chrome tan leather. I'd probably say 3 ounce. It would be good because you said this is going to work itself loose. This one's a little old, and you can see it's already, you know, polished out and textured and there. So if you get a good heavy about a 3 ounce leather there, they'll hold up for a long time. And so this is absolutely fantastic. You know, I'm sitting here carving. You can throw it on your leather. Yeah. I might even give you guys a little sneak peek at some patterns I'm making for my class I'm going to be teaching here. But let's say I'm drawing or I'm cutting this pattern. Now I have this so it's not spinning around on me. I can do there and I can work on it. It's a very useful thing, and you can make them out of scrap. So you could probably buy a bag of remnants from Tandy and go through and find a couple of good pieces, make yourself a couple bags worth. And overall, they're just a nice, easy, simple project. It lets you practice your cutting. It lets you work on practice your stitching, and the sizes and the edges don't matter. It doesn't matter if they're rough. You know, we're only folding this over like this. We're not going to do an inside out, try to flip it in out and do an internal seam. Just totally unnecessary for that. So it keeps it simple and easy, and it'd be a very useful addition to your workshop. And so next week, we'll continue on projects, and I will discuss. So if there's anything you'd like to see, let me know. I'll see what I can make. Maybe I can make a video about it. Okay. And for that is all I have for this week. And so with that, with no further ado, till next time, stay crafty.